Good morning, telco fans, and welcome back to Barcelona, Spain. We're here on day 3 of our coverage of Mobile World Congress. My name's Savannah Peterson, joined with Dave Vellante for all of the interesting analysis. We've had some really awesome conversations this morning. We've learned a lot. Dave, I saw you even really geeking out at one point earlier today.
Yeah, one of my favorite topics is data and data governance, and data catalogs and agents and how to make that all work.
I know. Yeah, I feel like we got smarter today already.
Hanging out with you, I feel smarter. I do.
That's a nice thing to say.
Seriously,
Dave,
I'm like, wow, I got to get on my game.
I wasn't fishing there, but I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. Speaking of smart people, Carolina's here to join us. Thank you so much for taking time on your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
Very delighted to get to have this conversation with you. I want to open it up. We were just talking about the show, and you said something that really resonated with me. You said it feels like MWC's gone back to its roots. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think I'm dating myself, but I started coming to this show when it was in Cannes, and it was called 3GSM, so a long time. And it feels that the carriers are going back to focusing on the pipes, and they actually believe that the pipes now are critical to the success of AI. So they're going back to the job they're meant to be doing, right? And I think that the reason is that finally they might see the opportunity to make some money out of the pipes.
What a novel idea for action.
But it feels that focus and also a sense of urgency in making things happen is definitely palpable.
Can I follow up on that? Because I'm kind of a newbie to this space. A few years ago was my first MWC, and I kind of followed from afar. It's always seemed to me, Carolina, that the carriers are really good at pipes and connectivity. And they had aspirations to go beyond that.
Yes.
And they were really bad at those aspirations. But at the same time, the cost per bit keeps coming down. The usage goes up. You hear them talk about the OTT vendors bogarting their network, my words, not theirs. Where is the opportunity for them to thrive beyond just kind of steady state, kind of boring business, but good business?
Well, I think that from a connectivity perspective, more and more is going to get connected, right? So while the cost per bit might come down, there's more that is going to be connected, and the investment that they made on the network is going to start to come through as far as being critical. We walked around a little bit, and I was talking about this very creepy conversation that I had with a robot just a few doors down. If you're thinking about robotics and moving from agentic AI to human AI, that is where that opportunity is going to come. And so it's not just about connecting people, it's connecting pretty much everything from an embedded IoT perspective, and then robotics and AI going forward.
So it's more consumption of their core product. Do they have to incrementally build out the network and spend more CapEx, or can they get operating leverage by serving these new use cases?
I think for now they have enough to get going for a while. I also feel that the geopolitical situation and the uncertainty, not just from the politics side, but also we really don't know yet the, if you like, the built out on AI and the increase in usage and the efficiency that AI is going to gain, what that balance is going to be as far as the requirement and the network is going to have to provide. So
really great point.
I think that it's still early to say, is this enough or there's more to come? But of course we're here and we're talking about 6G, so clearly there's more to come.
Yes. Right. Okay, so but you're saying there's an opportunity to be more efficient in the network, AI applied to that network. That drops to their bottom line and gives them operating leverage.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. I think there's also been some evolution on the hardware side. You had some observations about that as well.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We've seen a trend over the past few years, especially coming from the US, as we all do. You think about 3 phone brands, but certainly you don't see all the Chinese brands that are instead present here in Europe.
Much more prolific in this market.
Absolutely, especially here. And if you go into Hall 3, where the main vendors are, Xiaomi has taken over a huge part of that. And they have
for them.
everything. They don't just have the phones, they have a car that is going to be coming to Europe. So taking mobile to a different direction.
Yeah, and I see a lot of drones, there's a lot of satellite technology. There's been a big investment, I think, on expanding the offering on the device side in this telco world in particular.
But it's interesting as well that as much as the hardware matters a lot to consumers, I went to a Honor conference keynote the other day, and the whole thing was around a $10 billion investment in AI. That was the launch. It was a launch of Project Alpha, which is their investment in AI.
Wow, and is that mobile device specific? Is that across other parts of their business?
They are going across devices, and so they had a phone, they had wearables, they have, yes. And then they're thinking about an agent as well.
You know, it's interesting, again, my first experience at MWC was 3 years ago, and the Chinese companies' booths are amazing. And you know, in America, all you hear is negative on China, and here these Chinese companies are celebrated. They're like royalty. And it's quite amazing, and I see the United States kind of pushing a lot of the world, you know, away. And
it's an accurate statement.
And China could pick up a lot of that slack. I mean, you think about the diffusion regulations on semiconductors, and they have 3 tiers, you know, friends, enemies, and everybody in between. And everybody in between is like India, Israel, Switzerland. I mean, like these are fuzzy, and so, you know, you have to think about long-term relationships.
I'm not sure that celebrate is quite the right word. I
agree with that. I would say they pay a lot to have
but the money celebrates.
That's exactly it. I was going to say people
that's true.
celebrate the investment. I mean, come on. We're talking about how much these booths cost. We're talking tens of millions of dollars for some of these companies. Of course, there's going to be good graces around someone.
But they wouldn't be allowed in the United States in some cases,
well,
right?
in some cases, yes.
Maybe if they fork it out.
I mean, you go to CES and you've got a lot of Chinese companies on the show floor. So I'm going to politely disagree with you, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that.
But I think your point is like as far as the ability from a smartphone vendor to enter and be successful in the US is still really hard.
Very much.
So in that respect,
and so the rest of the world is their oyster. I guess is the point.
Absolutely.
So,
yes. No, definitely agree with that. Speaking of ubiquitous things and well, challenges, I think the number one word we were talking about when we were walking around here that's on every booth, instead of it saying AI, I like that the marketing teams all clearly texted each other or something before this, and they just said we're going to put intelligent on it, so that they don't necessarily.
I like that.
Yeah, well, the branding of it is kind of lovely, but everywhere you go.
What's artificial about AI? I don't know. It's like machine intelligence is maybe a better term, but
I mean, you look at Apple; they call it Apple Intelligence. You look at a lot of these companies, and they're leveraging that as you know, kind of stepping away from what might be negative sentiment around or fear of when it comes to AI. But I want to ask you, Carolina, it sounds like you've had a good chance to go around everything. What's the most intelligent thing you've seen on the show floor so far?
Oh, wow. I think there's more marketing than concrete products, to be honest with you. And to me, it's really interesting because I feel that when it comes to AI, especially from a consumer perspective, right, you're going to have, in my opinion, like a separation of the people that look at AI in somewhat a lazy way. So AI is going to help them do things a little bit more efficiently or easier, but to do the same thing that I've always done. And then there are the people that really see that the opportunity that AI brings is to elevate you, your work, your company, accelerate your pace. And that is where I start to see some of the products bringing that to life, whether it is that awkward conversation that I had this morning with Amira, who was very pleasant, just looks a little bit weird.
Humanoid is a really challenging space.
But a lot of like home robot that can help you with your chores as well as keep you company or provide safety if you are like an elderly person living by yourself. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We're still more on the marketing side than the concrete product side.
I think that's a very accurate statement, and I like the delineation that you just made, because one of my favorite analogies, things to come back to sometimes is, when we first got the internet, we did what we had already done. We wrote letters, but we called it email, right? And I think we're at this place right now where we're there, to your exact point. It's such a good point, Carolina. There are the companies that are doing things that they've always done plus AI or plus intelligence, and that's not going to be the groundbreaking, cool, real innovation that impacts the world. It's going to be the people who are asking the questions that haven't been asked before, the companies that are challenging themselves to actually forecast fires in California, like we were talking to Shri about. These are the applications that are going to be the innovations that change the world, that make the lives better for us, for our families, and for everything else. So I really love that. I really love that point you just made. I got another question for you, since you've been coming to the show a lot, and I can't help but ask this because I was giggling with our production team when they were telling me where all the bathrooms were strategically in the hall so I can find the closest bathroom. And Andrew was great. He says, well, hey, if there's a line at this one, I found another one. It's real close, and most people don't seem to know where it is. And I giggled and I said, sweetheart, this is a tech show.
Don't worry about lines.
Yeah, it's not a line for my gender, the gender I identify with.
More so than it used to be.
So this was going to be my question.
Really?
This was definitely going to be my question, because at CES this year, I said that when people ask me, what's the coolest thing you saw, greatest gadget, I said the coolest thing I saw was women. Yeah. And it was truly 50% of my meetings at CES this year were with women, first time by a long shot in that arena, and I was really inspired by that, to be honest, and it gave me a little bit of hope, because obviously DEI having a moment right now, there's not exactly the love for diversity that I think is just in the world, and not to get on too much of a monologue, but yeah, so has it improved in your tenure of attending the show?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you bringing this up, because we are having a moment and people are shying away from having this conversation. It has changed, not as much as we should expect or should see, but what hasn't changed is the sea of blue suits that you...
Oh my gosh.
You're not quite old blue, so I can say that.
The blokes in Blue Brooks Brothers blazers joke all the time. They all wear the same thing. At least we're in Europe, so there's a little bit of diversity, like some nicer shoes.
A little bit, yes, the brown shoes. But no, kidding aside, there are definitely more women, but not just in PR roles or
exactly, the token
roles.
Marketing.
Yeah, it's actually women that are on stage that have engineering background and CEOs and CMOs, and yes, so it's
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yes.
As somebody who, I appreciate fashion.
Yeah.
But I do have the same look every time. But how do you guys do it? Because I see you, and I see Carolina, you quite often. It's like you never wear the same thing.
I literally think about that.
Okay,
every day.
but I have like 10
it's by
blue
design.
shirts. I get only so many ties that work. But how do you do it? I have clothes that I brought here, and I'm going to wear them again tonight, and you're going to go, oh, you just wore that the other day. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but how do you do it?
But we do it because we have to, because people notice with us, but they don't notice with you.
And they would notice. So here's the thing, and this is, I'm glad you asked that question, Dave, and I'm going to give you the real honest answer to that. And this is straight up a pet peeve of mine, and this is something we bump into as people of camera, if you will. Is, to me, it's about the customer. And if we're going to interview multiple customers and community members, and they're going to be looking at that body of videos, I want them to be able to look immediately, visually recognize, oh, that's a different outfit, that's a different color, that's a different whatever. If I was wearing the same thing in every single one of those videos, they would notice that. And this is exactly the pressure that women feel.
Okay, so
that
my
men will
100%.
never understand. If
That
I
is
pulled
what
my
my
hair back
social
and didn't
media
wear
told
makeup.
me.
So my new friend Trinity Chavez, who does NYSE TV, she wears the same, like you guys, or you especially, the same color. She tries to color match. If it's Dell, she'll wear blue. If it's Silicon Angle, she'll have red. Okay, but I still don't understand how you do it. Do you throw clothes away?
I thrift a lot. It's a lot of thrifting, if you want to know. And my closet is robust of the things that I...
It's obvious you feel pressure to do that, because
I do think it's not a question of pressure, like from a societal perspective. It's a question of being efficient and being business-minded in 100%. The way that you do it,
So it's good
right?
business for you.
But exactly to your point, one of the first things that my social media team told me, when somebody lands on my page, they need to visually see that it's not the same video 5 shots in a row.
100%.
How big's your closet? I have a small closet at home.
There are
Deb has a big closet.
It's
There
also
are
about
services that you can.
Yeah, and I rent clothes sometimes.
You rent clothes and send them back after you wear them.
Can guys do that?
Yes.
Everyone can do
I need
it.
some coaching on this.
Okay,
we're gonna up my game.
We're going on we could do a whole segment on fashion. That would actually be really
There's
fun.
tech for it.
Yeah,
There's an app for it.
Like Rent the Runway.
Yeah, it's about being thoughtful because it is a talk trigger. The customers notice when we dress well. You hear them talk about my earrings, my clothes all the time, and that is, in my head, I always think, be so good they can't ignore you. What can make me even more memorable? And especially when you're the minority gender or race or whatever it is in a particular industry, that's what you have to do. You have to be so good that there's this burned impression in your head, whether that's as a company person, as a business, whatever it is, it's conducting that business. And so for me, literally before we go, or when we sign a big show, like we'll talk about Dell since you just brought it up, I'll go out and either look for something nice, or I'll go to the thrift store and see if I can find some cool stuff that's secondhand, so I'm being more sustainable as someone in fashion. Actually, half my outfits are thrifted.
That's
probably
my daughter. She's
on the show. And what's nice about that is, I'm not forking out tens of thousands of dollars every year because it would be easy to do that. And I love that as camera people, we can't write off our apparel because it doesn't count as a uniform.
Doesn't count. Yep.
It's one of
Really?
Yeah, one of my greatest pet peeves is
that's crap.
We're just expected to do this and then take the hit financially. I mean, I
we
could
can
go
write
on
off
and
our
on.
laptops, but you can't write off.
Yeah, no,
apparel.
exactly. No.
Why does this have to be a woman thing though? Like I see guys that are dressed strikingly, and it attracts my attention.
Yeah, which is great.
Why does it have to be a woman thing?
It doesn't.
It doesn't have to be, but what it is we've recognized that in order to be, at least from my experience, you're taken a bit more seriously, or at least get to have some more creative discussions when you do take the time to present the package. Like I think of my clothes as packaging. When you're buying a mobile phone, there's a nice box around it, right?
I think it's also a change in how women are supposed to be, especially in the US. A successful woman was defined by suit pants, pantsuit, a ring of pearls,
100%.
right? That was because you try to match the guys, and so that's very conservative, and I think we're at the time now where we can be more expressive, especially the two of us.
I was going to say, you and I are the best examples of this in our industry.
I love what you guys do. The nails are amazing.
Carolina and I are very kindred spirits in a lot of ways, and the fashion side of it. But I think even, for us, I feel like it's become more and more acceptable for us to dress really fun. I remember when I got my first job, or not my first job, my first company got acqui-hired in Austin, Texas, and this was only in 2011. And I go into, it was a PR agency of all things, and I go in for my first day of work. They had bought my social media company that I'd started, and the literal instructions were, day one, I don't know anything about this industry, were please don't burn popcorn in the kitchen. You can only paint your nails pink or red, and we prefer you wear a double strand of pearls. That was my onboarding for a job working in.
Did you walk out?
Some companies.
Yes, I did actually, and that entire situation was over in 3 weeks.
Some companies tell you how high your heels has to be.
An airline flight attendants, they have rules, they have regulations about the size of the pump. This stuff comes from the 1920s, 1930s.
Yes.
The laws around this, the guidelines. Airlines don't let their flight attendants dye their hair. There's all this stuff that you and I get to do, and it is part of why I think you and I are also very confident in our showing off of our cool stuff and our tattoos and our art and whatever that might be, is because so many people have been constricted for so long, and in a different way, that men weren't told how high the heel had to be on their shoe at any point.
Tell them
but for us, it was, you'll look prettier with your calves if it's this level of pump. This is literally the layering.
Is this women saying this, or is this men saying this?
This society saying
society.
Yeah.
So, but what is interesting, to bring it back to technology, is that you now start.
Derailed.
No, but you start to see that change reflected in the design of products, in who decides the color, the fashion. I mean, one of the brands that comes to mind is Motorola, and the focus that they did a deal with Pantone to figure out the color of the ear. Their CMO is coming from fashion. So there's definitely more attention to that, because the purchasing power is shifting as well. People talk about the Super Bowl. We just had in the US. look at the audience in the Super Bowl, look at the audience in Formula One, is more and more female, and because of that, the ads are changing, the
language
way,
is even changing.
Absolutely, like, yes, we're coming for you.
We're coming, and like, so one of my favorite examples
I welcome you.
One of my favorite examples of
the
the evolution of this is Things for Women was always designed to make us visually appealing, not for utility. And that's why every woman got so excited when dresses started to have pockets. You talk to any woman in the world and you ask her how nice it is to be able to put her phone in her pocket or her lipstick in her pocket or whatever it might be, or her jumpsuit. And this was a huge thing in fashion. And this only started to happen maybe 10, 15 years ago?
Till the phones got bigger and the pockets in our jeans stay small.
They're useless. They're useless now. But literally, yeah, no.
I'll oftentimes, because I'm old school, I'll do business cards and I'll go to give a business card. I mean, you don't really have any place to put this, so connect on LinkedIn or something,
yeah, exactly.
and I'll never be able to find you.
Even for us as women of camera all the time, where do they put the mic? On you, they put it on the back of your pants on the belt. If we're in a dress and there's no pockets, well, giddy up, you're putting that thigh holster on me, or we're going to drop it down the back on my bra. But there are so many times when the design decisions were made not for functionality, not for purpose, not for empowerment, but for aesthetic, that we then got to ride that aesthetic wave into where we are, and then as technical leaders and women in our space, we have to not only still kind of pay attention to that. Thankfully, we have our little swag. I don't feel super constrained, and you guys are obviously great about letting me
wear what I want. And there are days where you make bold choices where know you're going to be hated by the camera person, but I like this shirt, so it's wavy.
I really like that shirt. It reminds me of like the great sand dunes, but if they were colored, and it's nice. It's very organic.
I don't know how we got here, but this is a really interesting conversation. No, it is. It's something that we listen, from day one on theCUBE, we started talking about women in tech. I will answer your question. I haven't seen a dramatic change, to be honest with you. I think it's still, 15% of our industry is women.
It's
overall,
18%.
Absolutely.
Most of those women, tend to be in marketing roles. I always love when I was on a call the other day with a client, and we were going deep into tech, and it was a woman leading the call, and it was just so refreshing to see somebody in a technical role that didn't tap out and say, I can't be in this industry.
I think we have right now Lisa Su, who's the head of one of the most powerful companies in tech. You have Michelle Johnston, interim CEO at Intel, which I hope,
Jay Shri, one of my business heroes, Jay Shri Ulal.
So
unbelievable.
There are definitely, and that's what it is, like a lot of time, the excuse is there aren't enough. There are plenty.
The graduation rates are about 50-50.
If you go look, right? Like the opportunity to have more women CEO, to have more women leader is there. If you know where to look, and you give them the opportunity to do that.
We see a lot on theCUBE, like Melissa DiDonato, who was the CEO of SUSE, now is Kubia.
We see a lot, we've seen one this week.
Yeah, but this
Carolina's
week,
our second woman.
I was just going to say, we see a lot on theCUBE, but we haven't this week.
Right
no,
here.
We haven't. Right. No, and I think, and this is one of those things is, we could go on and on about this for a lot of different ways, but I think there's a lot of societal factors that oppress women within the workplace, from the patriarchy and misogyny and a whole bunch of behavior, but it's the allyship. And I think what's cool for our community, to make this a compliment, is we, at least within our CUBE network and our analyst network, I do feel like we elevate each other and are looking out for that visibility. I mean, and diversity promotes innovation. The fact that we're just pretending that's not real in our country, at least right now,
But to your point though, Dave, I think that you haven't seen so much this week because we're going back to the networks. We're going back to core telecoms.
Way to bring us back home there, Carolina. Yeah.
That is still very, very male dominated.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think,
The other thing too, observation I make, when I meet comfortable, like confident, intelligent folks like you two, you've both been very successful, but there are a lot of women that maybe don't have that level of confidence, but certainly are smart and talented, and they get maybe pushed down or ignored.
Or not lifted up even sometimes.
Or not lifted up. Yeah. You're big on mentoring. Mm-hmm. Maybe people choose not to mentor that individual because of their personality.
Or they didn't know how to ask.
And yet, a male might be in a different position. It would seem that way anyway. And so that's that's the sad part, because I think a lot of people say, well, what's the problem? Everybody has equal opportunity. And
no, everybody does not
it's
have equal opportunity.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
So.
And I think that, if more people went from mentoring to sponsoring, we might see more action.
Because
there's a difference.
What's the difference?
Mentoring, I'm going to tell you the things that you should do. Sponsoring is actually opening the door for you to get somewhere.
Come on in, this person.
Or making, and making that intro. Or
correct, to Savannah's point, is lifting people up, giving people opportunity to have their voice heard, not just tell them, here's what you do to get your voice heard.
Here, go behave like a man and be really outwardly confident and extroverted like Carolina and I are. It's like, it's for the quieter types or the introverts. That advocacy, that self-advocacy is counterintuitive to their persona, but they may be the smartest person ever in this particular sector or understand the solutions. And so this is why diversity is such an important thing to think about and to elevate, and it's why you see me get upset about it when our guests are not diverse enough, because that means we're having a one-sided conversation.
Correct, and that's what it boils down to, is no, and I know that in the US right now, DEI is a woke thing, and people are talking about DEI as a way to lower the standard or compromising in ability, and that's not what it is. It is about giving people the equal opportunity. So if I am drafting a job application, not make it male-centered, or not base it on requirements. If you're looking at why there's so few women speakers in places like this or CES, is because the requirement is a level, right? So they want C-level suite speakers, and we don't have very many. So like, you're trying to show up in places where they're already limiting your opportunity to get in. So solve the problem of actually letting more people get to that level, instead of going and lowering the manager level that you're willing to get the speaker at. Do you know what I mean? Like, the problem is not that people are not speaking at conference, the problem is that there are not enough people in the C-suite so that they can go and speak at conferences.
Yeah.
And the problem that I see with the DEI wave of the past several years is a lot of it is now being exposed because it was done for virtue signaling, not for the reasons that you guys are talking about. Because it seems to me obvious now that very few companies who were on the DEI bandwagon and are now backtracking were doing it for the wrong reasons. And the ones that are staying the course were doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and they still are.
The performative is gone away, because they think that being performative right now is no longer required. If you're a B2C company, and I'm going to look at the camera, whichever camera it is, you better not give up on DE&I, because it does impact, if not today, tomorrow, your dollars.
100%.
Having a diverse, having a diverse thinking, having a diverse set of products will get you more money. This is the part that, and we're now both on the soapbox, but
it's all right, Dave gave us the opportunity for it. Yeah.
This is the part that people don't understand. Like, DEI is better business. Having a diverse product base is better business. Reaching a diverse set of clients is better business. That's what it is. It's not about handing out like a charity check to someone. That's not what it is at all. No, it's actually a business-driven tool.
As is another topic that you know a lot about, sustainability.
Yes, which I have not heard much about here.
Very little. Only on power consumption, really. I just want to throw a piece of data out there. You want to guess what the return on investment for venture capital is, how much higher it is when you have a diverse team and you have just one woman on your board?
I have no idea.
36% higher ROI. So if you are not out there, so that means you're going to make that much more money. You can claim that you are a pure-blooded capitalist, and if that's the case, you should be prioritizing this across your organization, because there is so much data here that shows this, because this is what we eliminate bias. We talk about AI, you want to talk about bias, you want to talk about developing a product for the whole world, you got to have people that represent that whole world in that room, and if you don't, it's bad business, it's bad vibes, it's bad a lot.
All of this, we've done all of this, and probably, half our viewers have switched off 10 minutes ago. and which is the point I want to make.
Right.
I think we need to be smart now in the way that we talk about this so that people don't turn off. Because the moment you say DEI, people's like, or they laugh it out, right? And so let's be smart and talk about it in a different way so that we get the job done, we get to a diverse base, whatever that is, in a conference, in a business, and we don't turn people off. Because the business implication of being diverse and the benefit, the return of investment from it is undeniable. And if you're not seeing it, you will pay the price as Target.
You had my attention at Better Business, and I don't know, say what you want about Benioff, but he's always said this about his beliefs.
I was just talking to Cisco last night. They're doubling down for the same reasons. I think that you just brought up something really important, and it's nice of you to ground our mild insanity over here. But that's the I is inclusion, and we have to include everyone in the conversation, even when we're having a moment of passion and expressing what's going on. To bring this back to technology, and then I'll probably wrap us up, but there's a startup in Australia that's doing something really cool with AI job applications, where you fill out your job application. Anyone can, you can set up the form for any type of business, whatever it might be.
They gender indeed.
Yes, and they remove the gender and the age, and because there's a lexicon to gender and to age, and so they morph it and then score the candidates in a completely agnostic way. And it is wild how much more diverse the staff that comes from that program. I think it's something like 70% more diversity comes out of that because of that elimination of the natural biases that people have.
That's interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. This entire conversation has been interesting. If nothing else, I feel spicy and empowered.
Well, I'm really glad we had an opportunity to do this. Thank you, Carolina.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Always a joy to see you, and particularly to get to talk about things that we're passionate about. And thank all of you who are hopefully still watching. This sizzling segment. Let us know what you think Dave Vellante's next fashion moves should be, and let us know what you're doing in your business when it comes to promoting a safe work culture and a diverse one. We're here on day 3 of Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Spain. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.